Hello everybody, it is finally time for a Zabi update. If you read our last post, you understand the breakdown of what's going on a little bit, exactly, kind of, sort of. And this is video 1 of 3 to explain what in the world has been going on. But this one is Zabi update. So he kind of disappeared for a little bit. That was not intentional. That was because of so much going on behind the scenes, in addition to the fact that he was 450 miles away from us, receiving exceptional care from UC Davis Veterinary Hospital. And if you don't know Zabi was a burn victim of a very, very serious and heartbreaking situation. And all hope was about lost until UC Davis reached out and asked if we could get him there by the next morning. So let's recap exactly what happened and answer some questions that we feel deserve acknowledgement. When Zabi first arrived, he was in critical condition and we believed that he was going to be a euthanasia case. When we decided that he wasn't, we knew that that was going to get some questions based on, well, he didn't look all that great. So how did we end up in this predicament? Well, you see, I vouched for the year 2024. I said this is going to be a fantastic year for the rescue. Had never vouched for a year before. And that's on me. I do take credibility for everything that followed that statement. That being said, we were not in a reasonable place to take on a case like Zabi, but we are in rescue and there is nothing reasonable about any of the life choices any of us have made. So when we saw Zabi's plea, we thought for sure that he was going to receive the help that he needed, and we assumed that that was likely going to be euthanasia. So by morning, when he had not received help, we stepped up to give him that peaceful transition that he deserved. And a lot of people were appalled that he had not received any help yet, and the reality is that rescues are just so overwhelmed right now that they do not have the space or resources to even offer kind euthanasia in these cases. Each rescue is a team of volunteers with people just like everybody else that can only handle so much. So what changed the course of action? Well, when we arrived at the emergency room, not only did he lift his head and place it in the palm of my hand and ask for scritches, but he also wanted to eat a full meal of food and did not appear to be in the degree of pain that he most certainly should be. And you guys know that our motto has always been, if they're fighting, we're fighting. Keyword, if they're fighting. So knowing that we could manage his pain that seemed to be non-existent in his eyes through pain medication, we decided to move forward with blood work to see just how capable his body was of fighting this. That would be extremely difficult to fight even at prime circumstances. And his blood work came back beautiful, and I said, well, here we go. I'll follow your lead, and if you're fighting, I'm fighting. But I want to take a moment to acknowledge that euthanasia is not a bad word. In fact, it's a gracious and selfless word most of the time. And I think that's especially important to talk about in the disabled animal rescue community. Even though this story does have a happy ending, and we are getting to that, and I'm so excited to share it all with you guys. We want to acknowledge that euthanasia would not have been a bad option in this case. In fact, it would have been the right decision if the resources that he had available to him were not made available. And we're going to cut right here to a part of the original video that was supposed to be posted until a lot of things just, it didn't work.
This is where I am so grateful for you guys, beyond what words could ever explain. Is that even though we've been struggling and we've been slammed and counting every penny, I knew that if he was fighting, that you guys would be there too. And knowing that is something just beyond anyone in rescue's wildest dreams. We are so grateful for that, and I will never be able to adequately express that. I knew it was going to be tight. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I knew this was going to be stressful and we might barely make it by, but I knew that we were going to make it by, and it would be because of you guys. And that's why I feel like this video and this next video are so important, because you guys deserve these updates, and I want you to understand what's happening. I want you to understand kind of what has been going on and why things have been the way they are, and hopefully we can start fresh and give you guys the updates that you deserve, because you are what makes this possible. And before I get on to his treatment and everything it entailed and where we're at now, I also want to say, I know we say it over and over again, but I want you guys to truly understand just the gravity of what that $1 and what that $5 does, because so often I see people saying, I only had $1 to give. I only had $5 to give. It's never only. It's those $1, it's those $5 that made this possible. I need you guys to know just the value behind your $1 when that's all you can give. The value behind your share, the value behind your behind the love that you give him through the screen. It all makes it possible, and I don't want you to feel that that was not enough or not worth it, because whatever you are able to is responsible for this. You did this, and I need you to know that, and how much that means to us, and how grateful we are. It's not that we're not hurting financially, but I knew that we would pull through. And not a lot of rescues get to know that feeling. I want you to know that that $1 can change a rescue and an animal and a person behind the screen. And I just want you to know the value behind that and your support and your sharing. It's not just a share. It's not just $1. It's Zabi. Not a day goes by that we are not so grateful for all of you and what you have built for us. We follow their lead, but you have made it possible for them to be able to have a path to walk and for us to follow. So thank you.
So what I'm trying to say is that you guys often praise us for the decisions that we make, but we all make decisions based on the resources that we have available to us, and you guys are what make those resources possible. Your voice and your support is just as loud. And another thing to keep in mind with these critical cases is that we have to assess each day as they come. When they're no longer fighting, when the situation becomes too much for them, and each case is going to be assessed individually because one might handle more than the other. Zabi's team was so captivated by him because of how remarkably well he was handling all of this when he really should not have been. And if at any point the situation changed, we had to be prepared to make that call, and that nearly happened. Prognosis of burns like this can change every single day, and although Zabi had been doing incredible, there was one day where it all went downhill and we were looking like this was it. I asked his doctor, would it be fair to him if I spent the night reaching out to everyone I could possibly think to and just see if there was another option for him that we were not aware of.
If there were no surgical options for this cat, he would have very quickly, at any moment, gone septic and died a very difficult death. And that is not something I was willing to risk or gamble for him. He had already been through enough, and I was not about to let that be the case. So even though our motto is if they're fighting, we're fighting, and he was fighting, this was that point that we dread, that we still need to protect them. But because he looked up at me and he still wanted that churu, he just wanted to be here. We give this just the night for me to reach out to anyone I possibly can and see if there's an option that we aren't aware of. And then if we can't find one by morning, it wasn't meant to be. Because whether or not it was out there, we were not going to risk his ending being that way. And that small window of time we had was very slim. And I did not want to put him through anything too much. And so that night, I got on my computer and I emailed every single person, every doctor I could possibly think of. And I just put out the biggest plea that I possibly could, knowing that this was it. This was his chance. And if it's not there, it wasn't meant to be. But I believed it was meant to be.
I go on to mention another thing of importance to me, which is how I worded this email. I was very careful with each and every word because I did not want anybody to wake up that morning or see the email the next evening and know that they had missed the window and it was too late. I did not want anybody else to feel the weight of his circumstances on their shoulders because rescue and the veterinary world is doing the best that they possibly can and is already carrying so much of that weight. I expected nothing of anybody, but I did the very best that I could. One of the vets that I had emailed was a neurologist at UC Davis, who was not even in the specialty that Zabi would need, but it was a contact that I had nonetheless, and I was exhausting every resource. That is when I get a call a few hours later from Dr. Vernau. She had sent Zabi's case to the burn unit, and they wanted to see him and believed that he had a fighting chance. Mind you, we are about a 9-hour drive away from UC Davis, and this was about 6 p.m. on Valentine's Day nonetheless. And they said, could you be here by 11 a.m. the next morning? And I said, I don't know how, but yes, I will be there. So I call up my co-director, Jennifer, and I say, hey, I know it's Valentine's Day, but it's time to ditch our husbands and get in the car. We're going for a little drive. Well, where are we going to stay? We have to take all the diaper babies. Well, that's a great question. Remember that thing I said about the importance of sharing? You guys tagged the Hilton hotels so many times within just a few hours that by the time we arrived in Davis, we had a place to stay. They sponsored our trip with diaper babies in tow. Hilton is truly diaper baby approved. And just in the nick of time, we were there. The last time we were here having been with Posey for her case. Zabi was hospitalized there for about a month while he had a surgical graft placed. We were so blown away by the care and the precautions that were taken right off the bat, such as a full cardiac workup with their cardiology team, such to be sure that we catch any sign of burn-induced cardiac dysfunction early, which is not something that we would have ever thought to do. So I want to express our deepest gratitude to Dr. Vernau, who reached out in the time of need and made this happen for him. And thank you so much to Dr. Brinkley, who led Zabi's case. We would like to know what practice you end up at after Davis, because we are coming. Thank you to every other member at UC Davis that played a part on his team in any way, shape, or form. And thank you to Angelica, a vet student who stepped up to foster Zabi during his recovery while he needed to be back and forth for rechecks. And thank you again to Hilton, because in the midst of all the crazy, they sponsored our stay again when we had to just suddenly book it and run and get him and bring him back in the middle of all of our craziness going on here. Once again, Diaper Baby approved. And then we went to meet Angelica and Zabi, and we're so excited. Thank you so much again, Angelica. And also, somebody handmade this blanket for Zabi, but it didn't arrive until after he was gone, and so we brought it for him to enjoy while watching the beautiful Central California sunset. And then Zabi finally made it home, where we will be primarily focused on his continued healing and emotional health. And we will begin by decompressing in a small, quiet place such as a bathroom.
There's a mirror? That's me? Whoa, wow, I'm way more handsome than I thought I was. No wonder everyone loves me.
We will slowly be introducing him to carefully selected other cats and building trust and confidence. We are also utilizing certain frequencies through Ocuscope that will help to calm down the nervous system, in addition to other frequencies to help promote continued healing through his eyes. You guys had a lot of questions about his eyes, and although they had been answered, we were spewing so much information at you that it was really hard to keep track of everything. Well, I'm happy to let you know that his eyeballs are a-okay. Those lookers can see fantastic. What happened was, Zabi's case was really severe. It was 4th degree burns that they had to actually reach out to human burn units for advice on. The usable tissue that they had to work with was not ideal, and sadly far too close to his eyes than we would have hoped. So right now, Zabi is receiving eye drops 3 times a day, and he will be continuing care with our ophthalmologist down here, Dr. Farrar. He is very likely to need corrective extropion surgery in the near future. And while that is important, first and foremost, we want him to feel healthy and happy and be a cat again. He is already making incredible strides. So his journey is not over yet, but we could not be more thrilled with where we are at and everything that he has overcome so far. If you haven't gotten them already, the Zabi Strong fundraiser t-shirts will be available a little while longer, and thank you so much to VS Wild Art, who designed this and who helped to tell his story in a more easily viewable way through cartoons. We cannot wait for his future, and thank you all for giving him that. We told him at the beginning that this would not be the only life that he knows, and his story is just beginning.